Hey everybody. Okay, so we're starting 2 minutes early. I just want to make sure that everything's up and running. There's a little bit of a delay. It hasn't shown up in the actual live stream yet. It's just showing on my OBS. And there we are. Now we're live. So that's how much of a distance there is. That's how much latency there is between my OBS software and and the live stream. Anyway, thanks for coming here, guys. I know that people will still be coming on and everything, so I don't want to I don't want to get right into the meat of it just yet. There's going to be some stuff that I'm going to be talking about first. Um, just let me know if everything is working okay. I've got these video switchers and I've got the microphone going into it. There's a lot of stuff sort of going on here. So if you can't hear me properly or if anything is really seriously going wrong, just let me know. But most importantly, say hi. Ask me any questions you like. While I'm waiting for people to tune in, I see that we've already got a couple of watchers. I'm going to be just going through some items. It's really nice to see everybody. So as you guys know, I've been monetized now for some time, like around about, I don't know, 8 or 9 months. And for whatever reason, I've delayed getting into these live streams. And I'm not exactly sure why. Uh, I'm not really camera shy anymore, although who am I kidding? I am camera shy still, but especially I'm not great at speaking extemporaneously. I mean, maybe you've noticed that. I always have this feeling, and especially for these lives, that I'm going to end up leaving something unsaid or not expressing myself as clearly as I'd like. But I believe this live format will give me an opportunity to talk to you in a little bit more of a conversational manner. And I intend, much like how I've been doing with my interviews, to split these live streams up into little bite-sized pieces, to answer individual questions. Because let's face it, not everybody watches the whole thing. Not everybody has the circumstances too. I'm just happy for however long you can tune in. But so as I was saying, I'm going to split these up into bite-sized questions and make separate videos about them. See, here's the issue: is I receive questions from people, and quite a lot of them. Some of them in the comments, some of them, in private communication. Looks like we got some people here held for review. Eli Ace Frank. Hey, Eli Ace Frank is so happy that you came on here. Nice to see you. I don't know why, but I get this message with only your comments. It says this message is held for review. I don't know why they do that. Uh, but I like your question. I hope I'm just going to press show here. Hey, Mickey. Nice to see you, bro. Yeah, it's great to see everybody. Eli Ace Frank asks, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I don't know. I guess the better question is, where do you see me in 5 years? Locked up or something? Who knows? Well, I think what I would like to see is for my channel to be fairly well known. I would like, hang on here, something. Yeah, I would like to be fairly well known on YouTube here. I'd like to, I don't want to give a count, but I would hope to be in, hundreds of thousands of subscribers. Hopefully by then, that would be nice. That's what I'm working towards. And, what's funny is we're actually getting lots of good guests on my channel. Like I was really shocked to see, hang on here, guys. I was really shocked to see people like Bernardo Castrop want to be interviewed on my channel. I mean, that's pretty high profile for me, and especially that Stanley Fish guy that I had. That was amazing, and I mean, he's really well connected. He's conquered the academic world. Good friends with, the late great Justice Antonin Scalia. So I mean, I think that with these kind of guests that I'm getting on, it can only grow, right? Um, I get some questions here. I feel free to leave your comments, guys. I'm happy to answer whatever you like, but I thought that I would share a really good question that I got privately from somebody. The question said, for those who've left the Jehovah's Witnesses, how can the law of attraction fill their desire for meaning, contentment, happiness, and fulfillment in life? And I really like that question because it's not exactly obvious to most people when they leave the Jehovah's Witnesses, the connection there between them and the law of attraction. And there's kind of a couple reasons for that. one of the reasons is that when people leave the Jehovah's Witnesses, they're generally kind of jaded. I mean, understandably so. There's many things that are to be upset about. And the other thing is that the LOA community is very spiritualistic, and so we get some 5D reality transurfing, and not knocking it. There's room for everybody's beliefs, but that just it shocks a lot of people, right? And they don't know what to deal with it. But this question about how the law of attraction you can use the law of attraction to find meaning and contentment and some resolution to your experiences as former witnesses. I'll answer that question in one way. The one thing that we should all take away from, if you're a current witness, or especially if you've left, is that you control your beliefs. Your beliefs are entirely plastic. And that may sound counterintuitive. I see another question here. Just let me hold that for one moment here. Eli Ace Frank, I don't know why it keeps blocking you, bro. It's not me. What year will LOA become public knowledge? That's a good question. I'm going to answer that in just a moment. Yeah, so the connection to the Jehovah's Witnesses is that it's, even as a practicing member, you remember how they would tell you to, when you're from door to door and you don't know the answer to a question, they would say, say you'll get back to them because I'm sure the governing body has talked about this matter. And that just goes to show you that we're always looking at reality with some sort of focus, right? We're always sort of, reality is full of truths. There's no end to the amount of truths out there. And so what we do to orient ourselves in reality is we grab what is most relevant to a pre-existing, or what's called an a priori assumption. And so the law of attraction is very much in tune with that, right? And so that's the big thing here that we should all take away from our experiences with the witnesses. Meaning is a value-driven structure. Contentment is also something that it's different things to different people. There's kind of two different forms of contentment. You can be content while being monetarily rather poor. You can be incredibly happy, and then there's the other kind of contentment, which is basically accepting your misery and suffering and accepting nothing more than that, resigning yourself to struggle. And so that's one word that can be interpreted two different ways. And this is another thing I want to get into is, sorry, I got some other comments here. What is the difference between law of attraction and faith? Oh my goodness, these are great questions. The chaos vibration, what would you say the real key to LOA is about freedom from belief as opposed to belief being a tool? Okay, so I think I'm going to suspend the thing about the Jehovah's Witnesses because I feel I've answered that fairly clearly. Let's address Eli Ace Frank's question first. What year will LOA become public knowledge? I certainly hope soon. I was happy to see Rhonda Byrne put out that secret movie, and several of her books get vast media attention. And I hope that it continues to, because even though I've not been, I'm not a huge proponent of Rhonda Byrne's version of it, at least it draws attention to the philosophy, right? So I hope it's going to be really popular. Mikius says, what is the difference between law of attraction and faith? Let me think about that for a moment. There's kind of two meanings to that word faith. So there's faith, which is necessary to orient yourself in reality, such as science. Everybody loves science. You're not going to see anybody who says, oh, science is bogus or this and that. And that's because science does still take faith. You have to have faith that the universe is rationally comprehensible. That's a point by John Lennox, is, to participate in any conversation, is to have a level of faith or trust in something. And that is the true definition of faith, is trust. Now, there's an opposite kind of faith that has been slandered, I would say. It's really a negative connotation of faith, and what they really mean is blind faith. This is the kind of faith that drives terrorist attacks. And now, what's the difference between the law of attraction and faith? Well, the law of attraction, at least my brand of it, has never said that you should cut out certain truths or certain forms of reality. My view is don't subscribe to what's called toxic positivity, because nature is inherently negative at times, and that's a part of the human experience. I mean, you can't dismiss that. So you have to grapple with it. Now, does that mean that you should stop trying to be positive? Of course not. You should always make that a focus in your life. But faith enters into it because you're trusting that you're going to find the evidence that for the kind of life that you're trying to make the focus in your life. People don't realize how fecund reality is, how infinite it is, how it can admit to many interpretations. This is something I wanted to say about its connection to the witnesses, is say you've left the witnesses, okay, and you adopt the most fatalistic worldview. Let's say you become an atheist who believes that, like the materialist kind of atheist who believes that, we're born into a losing battle, everything is entropy, we're going to be swallowed up in a heat death, life is utterly meaningless, you only get 80 years if you're lucky, and then you return to the blank nothing that pre-existed your birth. Okay, well, let's accept that as a fact. I don't think that there's much evidence to support that, but let's accept it as a fact. Do I now have to say that life is meaningless? Think about that. You go through your entire life punctuating beautiful experiences which all come to an end. The steak dinner you had last week, was it meaningless just because it came to an end? We saturate ourselves in these beautiful stories. We'll sit in front with a book for a week, an 800-page book, and we'll be fully absorbed in it. But the book comes to an end. Was it meaningless? Of course not. So you see what's happening there, and how that relates to the law of attraction is you can adopt the most fatalistic, nihilistic worldview, but that doesn't mean you need to be swallowed up by those implications if they are necessarily true. There's a different way of interpreting it, And so that was a great question. I don't know if I answered your question particularly well about the law of attraction and faith, but I would say that faith is involved in anything, any pursuit, and basically don't let whatever process you're engaged in take you away from, cause you to deny certain realities or to adopt evident empirical falsehoods, because we know where that leads, right? We've seen examples of where that leads. The chaos vibration, my buddy Damian James, so good to see you, buddy. Would you say the real key to LOA is about freedom from belief as opposed to belief being a tool? I gotta just not really understanding that yet. Real key to LOA is about freedom. Oh, yes, absolutely. So let me draw this back to some of the things I've already mentioned. Beliefs are plastic. I think it was William James who said that it's not facts that create beliefs. Beliefs create the fact. Now, having interacted with you in the past, I know that you're going to get turned off if I bring up quantum physics. And I certainly don't want to hinge my point on that because, again, there's different ways of interpreting the observer effect, right? There is a materialist view who hold that the observer effect is just a problem of measurement that emerges in trying to measure something, kind of like relieving the air out of your tire. You can never get an accurate measure because you're relieving it. So anyway, I'm not going to give you a quantum model explanation, although there is very good grounds to believe in the quantum model and the belief of the observer effect. I think that we're constantly, our beliefs are the very picture of being selective of what you're pulling out of reality, what truths you're trying to absorb, because there's always a value structure underneath it, right? And that causes you to see certain truths, you know. And the moment you shift your perspective, you can find truths to support virtually anything. This is why I say truth is contextual. It's perspectival. It's provisional. Something can be simultaneously true and false, depending on the context that you're looking at it from. So if that didn't answer your question, please let me know. We got Swim Sadie saying hi. Hey there, Swim Sadie. I answered one of your questions earlier. I don't know if you caught that. Let me know if it was any good or if I can clarify anything. Mickey, that was a good one. Thanks. Hey, no problem. He also asks, how does karma relate to the law of attraction? If my actions decide whether good or bad things happen to me. So, okay, let's go with the Hinduist interpretation of karma, which is kind of tied into reincarnation. I totally respect that people don't believe in that. I don't really believe in it myself, that I'll be a mouse in my next life or I'll be what have you. I think reincarnation exists in the sense that the self is always there. There's not anything in nature that doesn't have some sort of selfhood or presence or awareness. And so I believe in it in that sense. But karma, the idea that you are, that basically the Newtonian model of cause and effect, that's one of the most substantiated things on in science, is the idea that what you put out, you eventually get back. It's and this is actually one of the things that I critique about the atheists, is they think that the thoughts in your head are limited to the region or the confines of your skull. Well, that's patently unscientific. Your thoughts do impact the external world. We're all tied into the electromagnetic field of the planet. I mean, that's been substantiated in various peace gathering projects around the world. So is it such a leap to believe that my thoughts are having some distant effect out there? I mean, isn't that karma? I would say that that's karma, that's a cause and effect. Now, of course, there's the most obvious version of karma, which is that your thoughts cause your actions. No one can deny that. And your actions will definitely produce an effect on reality. And how does that not come back? You can live as a criminal and bounce from area to area, but everybody is connected in one sense or another, and it's going to come back to you. But so karma is it's a rational belief, even if you don't accept its implications of reincarnation. Okay, we got some more here. That was a good question, Mickey. Thank you very much. Can LOA, this is Swim Sadie, can LOA explain answered prayers? Oh, yeah, I love this. Okay, I think you actually sent this to me elsewhere. When I was a believer, I attributed answered prayers to God. However, my JW experience now leads me to believe he wasn't behind it at all. Yeah, that's a good question. I've gotten into this in a few videos. First and foremost, I want to give a shout out to my friend Sean from Yahweh Out There, because we've talked at length in the interview about prayer. And he's got some amazing views. He believes in prayer, and yet he's an atheist. He believes in the power of prayer. If you want a full discussion on this, I did a 45-minute video called Does Prayer Work? Something like that. Just look up prayer, Derek London. It'll show up. Shows a woman praying in the thumbnail. And I go into, I was tailoring that video to materialist atheists. And I showed overwhelmingly how prayer does have an impact on the external reality. But let's get into See, you have answered prayers on the one end. Actually, let's put this on this end. And you have unanswered prayers on the other end. And there's two ways of answering this. There's sort of a spectrum here. Let's start from the most skeptical point of view. Okay? Obviously, there are times where God let you go through the crucible, so to speak. We can all count the times. We can all remember the times where God didn't answer our prayer, right? And so I would say before you jump to the deistic, supernatural, interventionist answer, start with the mundane. It's Occam's razor. Start with the mundane explanation. Start with what you know, physics. Is it really a coincidence that you're talking about? Sometimes something can seem like a coincidence when the mathematical probability of that thing happening at least once or twice or three times in your life is incredibly high. There's a great Netflix series that talked about maths. I'll try to link it up in the description below of this video when I find it. And he was talking about probability and how there are certain coincidences that just seem so, there had to be some sort of input at play. And then what he did is he showed, well, the probability wasn't really 1 in a billion or 1 in a million. When you actually factor in all of the surrounding circumstances, the chances were more like 1 in 300. And then you stretch that across a person's lifetime, and it's like, oh, well, yeah, of course that's going to happen a couple of times in your life. So it's not, you don't necessarily have to jump to the supernatural explanation. Now, there is another side to this, though. See, we're starting from the most skeptical, and we're moving more towards the believing or the, believing in a God or something of that sort. I mentioned earlier the power of mind on external reality. And I think that should be the next explainer of these sort of synchronicities. So you're moving from coincidences, which are perfectly explained by math, to situations where the mathematical probability doesn't add up. What do you do then? Well, you can at least be open-minded to the idea that your thoughts have somehow created some resonance with the external world. We're all tied together in the world's electromagnetic field. Every organism, every biological organism has a positive and a negative charge, which means they're a magnet. And we have, Kirlian photography shows this, we have radial energy moving out of us at every given moment. That's going to produce an effect on the outside world. So you can now move to that level of skepticism, which is that maybe my thoughts are, this can still be explained scientifically. I haven't resigned it to just a mathematical probability. And then I would say you can jump to the deistic explanation. I'm not saying it's irrational to believe that God, if he exists, he necessarily intervened. It's quite possible. But I would just leave as a caution, be careful about that sort of thinking, because I think that math and mental externality explains a lot of this phenomena. Well, we're getting lots of stuff here. This is great. Where did I leave off? Answered prayers. Damian James, did very much. Thank you. Didn't dislike quantum either, just the way it's gone about. Yeah, I mean, who can disagree with you there, my friend? There's a lot of, I picked up that line from you, Damian, 5D reality transurfing. So you're going to see a lot of that when people talk about quantum physics. Having said that, the observer effect, and I know that you are a believer in this, you just don't like how carried away people get. The observer effect is accepted in philosophy, in physics. It's a perfectly rational viewpoint. Materialists, of course, wouldn't say it's rational, but I think that it makes actually more sense to me that there's an observer effect than to say that it's just a problem in measurement that we get. That's kind of like Neil deGrasse Tyson's explanation, right? It's just a measurement problem that can be explained by the Heisenberg principle. Okay, so we got Swim Sadie, this is great stuff. Oh, thank you so much. I'm still very nervous, guys. So, just take it easy on me if I'm not making much sense or anything like that. I'm glad that I'm still making some sort of coherent sense. Gaslit and Free Muse. Hey, it's great to see you. I'm so sorry I forgot your name, but I know who you are. You were there just about towards the very beginning of my channel, and it's great to see you. She says, "Hi Derek, have you heard of the Great Reset?" Yeah, I have heard of the Great Reset. I'm not. I don't want to sound like I've heard everything about it. I know that now we're veering more into politics. That there's a globalist plot, a cabal to, um, centralize power, and the pandemic enters into all that, and I can say a couple of things about that. Um, I can't really. I have interest. I have economic interest to be monetized on this platform. So I don't want to get into some of my more skeptical thoughts about COVID and all this. I think that we should take it seriously. I don't know where you sit on all of this. Um, do I think that there's a move towards centralizing power? I read a great book just recently by John Lennox called 2084. And he makes a very good case for how um, AI is really at the forefront of centralizing this power. Now, I think that one could be open-minded to the idea that is it first of all, is it really wrong to is it true, first of all, is it true that power is being centralized the way the great resetters and QAnon, all these um, traditionally called conspiracy theorists? I'm not saying that, uh, but is there really evidence to show it? I mean, I think that we should be skeptical to not just the institutions, but we should also be skeptical towards the other side of the argument, who want to say that it's all, what's his name, David, who is on London Real, David Icke. You know, he's not exactly got it all figured out either. And so I guess my viewpoint on this is we should be critical of our institutions, but I think we should be very, very careful about throwing them out, um, and writing them all off just because there's corruption. And the other thing is, so we've attacked the truth aspect of the Great Reset, but let's also ask the question, is there really anything wrong with centralizing power? I ask that question if that's really a bad thing in every circumstance. Um, I think that, and again, I don't want to misrepresent your views. I don't know where you sit on this, so don't feel like I'm attacking you in any way. But I think it would be highly cynical to say that the EU and the UN doesn't accomplish a lot of good, that it doesn't accomplish more good than it does bad. You know what I mean? So I do accept that authority for what it is. I don't accept it blindly in the way that I used to with reference to the governing body. I don't think any institution is deserving of that level of credulity. So the Great Reset, I think that there are some very good critics. There's some good criticisms. There's, the way the pandemic is being held. There's always room for criticism on that. But I would just say be leery about some of the more, what would you say? I know you probably hate to hear this, but conspiracy theory. Try not to go too far to the other side. If you believe wholeheartedly in what Jim Jones, what Infowars, what's his name, Alex Jones is saying, that guy is completely bananas. Like, at least promise me you're not gonna go and gulp down everything he says. But it's a good question. I think that there is tons of corruption that's not just possible but inevitable in centralizing power and in how the pandemic is being handled. We shouldn't be silencing criticism. We should be using it to improve conditions. I hope that answered your question. And again, I don't want to misrepresent your views. I don't know how you feel about it, but those are just sort of my views. Uh, Mikius asks, what attracted you to the law of attraction first time ever? And you know what? I'm going to show Eli Ace Frank's message here. Again, it's blocking you for whatever reason. It's not me. I'll get around to you, my friend. So yeah, Mikius's question. I think what attracted me to the law of attraction, let me think back. I was still a Jehovah's Witness when I heard the law of attraction. I I consider myself, even at the time, I think I might have been pioneering. Um, so I was, spiritually strong. I considered myself fairly up to date on the doctrines. And I saw no implicit contradiction to the law of attraction and what the witnesses taught. Not necessarily. There are witnesses out there who believe that it's spiritistic and it's connected to the occult and all this. I don't really think there's any grounds to believe that if you get right down to the philosophical end of it. If you're just talking about one's perceptions and biases and things like that, I think the law of attraction, I've always felt that the law of attraction has a lot of truth value to it. So yeah, I would say that. Oh, that was when you asked what attracted me to the law of attraction. What attracted me to it? I think just the fact that what I mentioned earlier about connecting Jehovah's Witnesses to the law of attraction is how plastic our beliefs are. That was what was most profound to me. I've always been very troubled and fascinated by the question, how much do my perceptions and beliefs frame reality? You know, how much does interpretation filter, um, you know, fact, filter the truth? I would assert, now we have to get fairly technical on this. This is kind of at the height of philosophical investigation, not existentially down here. I would assert that there is technically no value independent fact out there. Even something like gravity, even something as empirical as gravity, I don't think is necessarily value independent. For example, we use gravity for flight, most importantly. But we're constantly even before airplanes existed and aerodynamics as a respected science. We saw contradictions to gravity, which is birds. And you can say, well, they're using the law of gravity to fly. Well, no, that's not technically true. That's an equivocation. They're using propulsion and aerodynamics to fly. And so to say that they're using gravity is not technically true. So there is a value structure under that, isn't there? I don't know if I explained that particularly well. Maybe I could expand on that in another video. What are the things you want to manifest? Hey, Eli Ace Frank, that's a good question. What are the things you want to manifest? Hi, AC. Thanks for tuning in. Well, there are definitely some external things I want to manifest. As I mentioned, I think I was answering your question earlier. I want to have several 100,000, perhaps up to millions of subscribers one day. That's a big thing that I'm working towards. I'm trying to put out more content. I would like to get to a point where I could put out like 6 or 7 videos a day, like 3 or 4 interview clips, a couple of shorts, and one full-length video every day. I'm going to have to work up to that, obviously, and I think that things will grow in a big way. So that's my biggest goal right now. I would really like to manifest a Rolls Royce one day. I think that would be pretty cool. But of course, not everything is materialistic for me. As it is, I'm very privileged. Like my hand-to-mouth needs are not my first concern in life, and not a lot of people can say that. So I'm profoundly grateful for that. I would say there's a lot more spiritual goals that I have. I'm trying to become more of a contented person. Contented in the sense that um, I don't want externalities like my YouTube to dominate my thoughts. I want to be driven. I want to accomplish a lot. I want to offer lots of value, but I don't want to be upset when I see that I got 60 views one day. You know, like I should be thankful for that in itself. That 60 people saw my content that day. And there's a spiritual dimension to all of that, that you're really helping people. This is one thing I really enjoyed about making content for the Jehovah's Witnesses is there's a lot of people out there who left with a lot of um, you know baggage. No offense, I've had my own baggage with it, and a lot of it was self-imposed. It's very hard to assign how much of that the governing body was responsible for, and so you know this that's what I want to manifest, is helping people. And being that the witness content was much more popular, I felt perhaps a little more fulfilled in that sense because it was really helping people. And I'm really hoping that my views on the law of attraction can do the same, have the same impact on the world. Um, I saw AC said something here. If there was only 3 law of attraction books you could read for the rest of your life, what would they be? Oh, that's a good one, AC. And why? Okay. Well, I mean, I have to put that at the top of the list. I think even if I didn't like the book, I have to put it at the top of the list just because of the status it has. But the fact is, I actually really do like Think and Grow Rich. It's a classic for a reason. Napoleon Hill was, and this goes to your why question, Napoleon Hill was put in touch with 500 of the most wealthy people on the planet for his day. And it was Andrew Carnegie who connected him to all those people. What a wonderful thing. I think that ranks up there as, one of the most underrated altruistic things someone has ever done, to instead of hoarding this knowledge and wisdom on how to create wealth and prosperity in your life and how to become more contented inwardly as well, to make that accessible to the masses. Like, and to he didn't pay Napoleon Hill. Napoleon Hill did it completely voluntarily, and it took him, like 20 years to write the dang thing. And he had to go out of his own time and talk to all these people and interview the best minds in finance, in business and entrepreneurship. Like, you just can't put a value on that. It's priceless. And so, yeah, that's got to go at the top of the list. I've been really getting into kind of a different side of the law of attraction, which is health related. I've read a lot of books by people like Jeffrey Rediger and Dr. Joe Dispenza. Even David Galanter's work on the unconscious mind called Tides of Mind. Those were amazing books. At the top of that list, I would put Cured by Jeffrey Rediger. So that's my second. And even though I don't even think he mentions the law of attraction once in that book, but it's a law of attraction book. The third, Science of Getting Rich is great. What was that? Hang on, I have it right here. Oh no. I'm sorry. That's another Napoleon Hill book. What was that? James Allen. You'll have to look. I did a video. It was called Conquering the Mind. I think it's got sort of a blue background. It's one of my earlier videos, And I mentioned the book in there, and that was probably my third. I can't remember the name of it. It's actually based on that proverb. Um, it's not. I can't think of it. I'm sorry. I'll try to link it below. Okay, guys. Um, Love that book. AC, if you can think of the book I'm talking about, please mention it because I would recommend that to everybody. And thank you so much for popping by. Swim Sadie again. Please comment more on conspiracy theories. Is there an easier way to identify? To identify? Oh, to identify conspiracy theories. Well, here's the problem. It's implicitly political. You're not going to get out of the political realm. You know, here's what I would recommend about speaking about conspiracy theories, because the question is truth. That's what we're getting down to. This is a post-truth issue, because we have lost a foundation of of um, of trust in media, in institutions, and that is utterly corrosive to society at large. And my video that I interviewed Stanley Fish, and we talked a lot about this um, repository of trust in institutions that used to exist and no longer do. I mean, in the internet age, that has completely evaporated. There are no Walter Cronkites anymore. And I'm not saying Walter Cronkite was right all the time, or he was wrong all the time. That's not what I'm getting at. I'm talking about the man was a repository of trust. He is the most trusted man in the media for when he was in his heyday. And conspiracy theories, it's always one side of the political spectrum that's calling out the other as a conspiracy theorist. You know, um, anti-maskers, they're saying that it's those who want to treat COVID as if it's real, or want to take a proportional response to it. They're written off as conspiracy theorists from that end. And then of course it's the kind of the more popular view is that the Trumpers and and the Great Resetters and the who else, those who are against the institutions are conspiracy theorists. So what the hell do you do about that? It's just one word against the other. I would say here's what I would recommend, and it's why I've been so critical of Trump. Again, if you're a Trump supporter, please don't take this personally. It's just my opinion. But here's the problem. The Trump supporters have no problem criticizing the institutions, which have many corruptions. There's no doubt about that. But I have to now, in order to abandon these institutions, I have to put all of my faith in one man, and a decidedly demagogic man. There's far more dangers that result from that, in my opinion. And so as far as identifying conspiracy theories, I would say, being as this is just a post-truth issue, this is an issue of what is epistemic. It's an epistemic problem. I think that we should try to inform ourselves on all possible sides of an issue. And hopefully what emerges from that process is you become aware of your blind spots, and you find in what context something can be true and in what context something can be simultaneously false. So I guess the only answer is centrism. I'm not saying the kind of centrism that justifies or allows a space for terrible evil. I'm saying centrism in the sense that violence is an absolutely last resort, and that you are open to all of the questions raised. This doesn't mean that you have to sacrifice truth. Truth can still emerge from things. For example, I am sympathetic with Trump supporters and lots of these people who are critical of the mainstream with regard to COVID. I'm sympathetic with them in a big way. I think that that their feelings are grounded in truth, that there are horrible things that are happening to people's businesses, and there is a power dynamic issue here. There's a power imbalance. And so, where was I going with that? Oh, yeah, just that I can sympathize and I can see exactly where that political persuasion or identity comes from. But I'm also very cognizant of the kind of things that they are just not seeing. So I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I've put my foot in my mouth. Maybe I didn't answer that well. Let me know if I can clarify anything. These issues are very charged to begin with. But yeah, I think conspiracy theories come from simply not trusting institutions. There's no baseline of truth anymore, and that we should just try to get to know the facts, all of the facts, not just the ones that are conducive to your point of view. Robert Aluba, thank you very much for coming on. Can you play The Trees by Rush on the guitar behind you? I love that song, The Trees. I've never heard from you before, but you must have been referring to an old video of mine. That is an incredible video, an incredible song. And no, I can't play it because, first of all, I don't know how to play that song. And secondly, that guitar it needs a setup. It would sound mighty out of tune. The Trees, that's such a good song. You guys got to look up the lyrics to that song if you don't know it, okay? And it does get into some of these issues that we're talking about. What was my favorite line from that? There's trouble in the forest. There's trouble with the trees. The maples want more sunlight, but the oaks ignore their pleas. I can't remember. There's so many good lines in there. And if you want to talk about politics, that's a good song. King of the Dots. What area of the earth are you tubing from? I'm in Victoria, BC. So where are you guys? Where are you from, my friend? Awakened G. Thank goodness, Derek. Saw a lot of similarities between him and the governing body, especially with regard to controlling what media you listen to. I don't know if that's directed at me or if it's directed at somebody else. So you could clarify that. Between him and the governing body, especially with regard to control. Well, if that is directed at me, and I mean that's a perfectly respectable view. If that's how you feel that I dismiss all kinds of media, I think that if you are going to adopt a position on anything, you are inherently going to ignore certain formats of media. I got somebody else here. I really want to hear your clarification on that, and I'm not offended by a criticism like that if that's what you're saying. I just think that what we are embedded in, my friend, is we're embedded in an epistemic issue of what is true, and I can question all of the, I can go into behaviorism, I can go into psychology, I can go into, my environment, and you can say that my views are framed by the fact that I have this background, and so I have this proclivity to be liberal. You could make that argument, but that's completely double-sided. That finger can be pointed in the opposite direction. And so it's kind of like what Thomas Nagel, this is why I'm so fascinated by this stuff, by beliefs, is Thomas Nagel, he says, what other recourse do I have if psychology and behaviorism and all of these kind of evolutionary factors at play that frame people's viewpoints, if I am to fundamentally question that, then how do you escape that circularity? I mean, because now that can be thrown at, let's take a Republican's viewpoint. I've got some clarification here. I meant it as support, no criticism. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, even if it was criticism, I'm not hurt by it. I think it's a good question. Maybe I'm not understanding your question. If you could maybe reword it or something, I would really like to get to the bottom of that. Um, uh, yeah, I'll just leave that there for now. But if you could clarify that question earlier, then I'll definitely try to take another stab at it. And if it is critical, I don't have a problem with that either. Um, Robert Aluba, I think awakened comment was cut into two parts. Awakened comment. Oh, okay. Yeah, I can see. Thank goodness, Derek. That was one comment, and the other one saw a lot of similarities between. Who is the him that you're referring to, my friend? Saw a lot of similarities between him and the GB, especially with regard to. Oh, with Donald Trump. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, I definitely see that, and that's been my main problem. Is it's like, yes, you can say if you trust a certain organization, let's say it's the World Health Organization, and you give them your support. Yeah, you're technically in a cult, right? Because there's a structure there. They can discipline. You know, if you're involved in that organization, they can discipline you. It fits all the criteria of a cult. But so does Trumpism. The problem is that Trumpism that's the product. That's the end result. That's all you get. You don't get, this um, construct that has checks and balances in it. You see what I mean? So yeah, I definitely, if you were referring to Trump, I agree with you on that. But yeah, I mean, if people want to say that about me, I'm okay with that too, because I am just a human being, and I probably do censure certain individuals unfairly just because of what they believe. But I just think that we're embedded in that. You're condemned to that if you're going to have any kind of political viewpoint. So all you can do is what I would call support radical centrism, which is complete paradox, but that's all you can do. Yes, so you did mean Trump. That's good. Thank you. Help me to wake to see Trump. Well, that's good. I'm glad. Goat Bone. I'm not a conspiracy theorist by definition. I believe we landed on the moon and that JFK was shot by Oswald and 9/11 was not an inside job. But somehow I am skeptical about the whole COVID-19. Yeah, that's respectable, Goat Bone. I again, I don't want to take the status quo and be completely uncritical of it. And of course I still have to. The really sad thing is, and this is another philosophical political issue that needs to be addressed, is we have platforms like YouTube who control to a great extent what I can say. And of course I have commercial interests just like everybody else, so I'm not going to come out and say, don't get the vaccine and don't wear a mask and yada yada yada, and it's all just a hoax. Even if I really did believe that, I could never say it, and I never would say it, because it's just shooting. It's a case of hoisted by your own petard. It's shooting yourself in the foot. So there's room for criticism, a lot of criticism. I think that. And it certainly depends on which region of the world you're in, some of the responses have been utterly disproportionate response to the virus. I would say, just my own personal opinion, I think Canada has been rather, they've had a good balance of not transgressing libertarian rights and freedoms. I mean, you could argue that, yeah, you can't go to church and stuff like that, but a lot of the churches have went online. It's not like this is, a fight against religion. And they're talking about lifting a lot of the restrictions. So I think Canada has been rather good on that front. Maybe they've been a little too accommodating, because as we've seen in cases like Australia, where they were far more draconian, we actually saw good results from it, at least from what I've seen. The curve flattened, and it was like, now they're having gatherings of 30,000 people. I mean, maybe there's something to be said for extreme measures, but I guess I'm rambling here, but I'm just saying I respect being critical about the virus, and I don't want to say that anybody who criticizes it is a conspiracy theorist. So I hope it didn't come across that way. Somewhat helpful concerning conspiracy theory. Just want to wade through the BS and not spend my life plugged into media 24/7. Yeah, well, I mean, who could deny with you? Who couldn't agree with you there, Swim Sadie? What could I say about that? I would say do do allow yourself to see what the criticisms are, even with the Great Reset and the centralization of power and all that. Be open minded to it. Grab onto the truths that you think are valid, and the criticisms that should be, directed at it. Um, but I do think that there's room for I think that there's room for all viewpoints on this. That doesn't mean that you have to become empty-headed now and not have a viewpoint. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that all viewpoints were created equal. This is why I say with those who are critical of the status quo, let's say, and the Biden administration and Trudeau and all this. I just forgot my point. I'm getting tired here. Oh yeah, there's reason to be sympathetic there. There's great reason to be sympathetic, but that doesn't mean that I can't see the BS. There's a lot of stuff that you cannot leave as just, oh well, that's your opinion. It's like some things are just genuinely wrong. I've taken this line, for example, with the baseless accusations that Trump was leveling at the left for fraud. Do I accept? Do I appreciate the kind of bullying that happens from the left, because the mainstream media is a greatly liberal. It's a great liberal hotbed. There's not much room for the conservative viewpoint. Do I sympathize with that view that there's some great cabal? Of course I do. The media has been very unfair. Granted, the media has been pretty unfair on the conservative side too. I think you'll find just as many instances where they've been as bad and worse. But I haven't, even though I can respect that kind of that kind of mistrust and criticism, I'm not going to now gulp down the Kool-Aid and say that there was top-down fraud from the Democratic Party. There's been nothing to substantiate that. You can talk about liberal bias. You can talk about, that the Democrats are biased and they're unfair. But there's just no top-down connection between, Trump losing the election. And so this is where I have drawn a fairly strong line on things. Again, you don't have to be empty-headed on this. You can adopt a side. It doesn't mean, though, that I'm dismissing the sentiment that drives Trumpism or being against liberal media and all this. I hope I didn't ramble too long on that one. We got a lot of stuff here already. Okay, so I answered that. Awaken G, exactly. When you can only watch Fox News or you can only read Watchtower, seems the same to me. Yeah, I'm completely with you there, my friend, and I know that might alienate some of my viewers. But yeah, if you're getting this view from the top that you have to cut out certain forms of media, that's, what do we have left? You've closed down conversation, right? It doesn't mean that Alex Jones doesn't have a point every now and then. But look at the guy. Like, is he, on the whole, credible? That's kind of my view on that. Mickey, can you believe in God and law of attraction at the same time? Absolutely. Absolutely you can. In fact, I get very confused at times between my views on the law of attraction, or this ground of intelligent nature, and calling that God. I mean, and I'm almost tempted to call it God in a way. I'm skeptical towards deism and the biblical God. But of course, I'm applying an interpretive matrix to that, and I gotta be cognizant of that. Da, da, da. I think I'm getting a little bit tired, so I'm going to take a few more questions. But this has been so good, guys. Damian James, while you already mentioned you're not big on the karma idea, do you think Trump could be a spiritual lesson, such responsible voting or lucid about traditional, like the Electoral College? Yeah, well, yeah, definitely. I think it is true that we get the leaders we deserve to some extent. Um, Trump, I've always said Trump is as much an instigator as he is a symptom. He's a cause and a result of the political system that we see. Um, so yeah, I'm with you on that. What else did you mention there though? About tradition like the Electoral College. See, I mean, we kind of have an Electoral College here in Canada. It's a totally different system. Um, the biggest gripes that people have up here about the Canadian system is um, the election is generally decided in most cases long before it comes out to Alberta and BC. The West feel a lot of people feel very alienated in the West, but the bulk of the population is over in the East, and I don't see how you could get around that. We did have votes for proportional representation. Because we're a first past the post kind of system. It's sort of similar, like the states. You have to get 272 votes, I think, first, and that person wins. But it's a little more geographic. It's a little more lateral in Canada because I guess just the distribution of the population is like that. So, given the makeup of the country, especially geographically, you're going to run up into questions like that. Uh, I don't have a problem with the Electoral College. There's been a lot of criticism against gerrymandering, and that has raised questions of voter suppression and all kinds of things. But and it does seem like the Republicans have a little bit more of an edge with that sort of thing, just because the red states do tend to have less democratic rules with regards to gerrymandering than like the instances of California and like the liberal hotbeds, New York and stuff like that. It's much more democratic in those parts of the country. So anyway, I'm spending too much time on this question, but that's a really good query. King of the Dots, did anyone tell you the volume was low? Oh, really? No one said that. I'm so sorry. I'll come closer. I have drifted away from the mic a little bit here. Let me just do this. We're almost coming to an end anyway. Is that better? Let me know in the comments. With social media's ability to corral people involved in the most innocent and mundane interest groups and then subsequently reject dissenting thinkers, everything is a cult now. Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, who could disagree with that? It's everything. Any group has, does, and always will qualify as a cult, because the definition of cult is so broad as to encompass any organizational structure that is going to have power dynamics and is going to have disciplinary procedures and administrative roles and all the rest of it. So yeah, I mean, but there are, having said that, and I've made this point with the witnesses, there's a big difference between the witnesses in my point of view. There's a big difference between them and Jim Jones. So, like, it's a gradation, right? I don't want to make false equivalencies where certain organizations are necessary, and yeah, they have unfortunate power dynamics, and therefore it's a cult and just as bad as Jim Jones. Well, I don't know. We can get carried away on that, right? Some people have associated the blood doctrine, the no blood mandate, bloodless surgeries, and some of the deaths that result from this as being tantamount to murder in the Jim Jones case. And I've done a video on that. It's just called Jehovah's Witnesses and Blood. and I kind of tackled why in my opinion that's a false view. But I think I'll leave it there on that one. But a very good question. I'm really loving these questions here, guys. That was Robert Aluba, I think. Ability to corral people's. Yeah, that one I read that. King of the Dots. Trump was a Democrat in Republican clothing, and predictably sabotaged them in Georgia like a time bomb. 4 years ticking. I'm not really familiar with what you're referring to there in Georgia. Um, I do know that there was one thing I wanted to say on that. Oh, just on Trump being a Democrat in Republican clothing. I'd like to hear maybe some um, elaboration on that, if you don't mind. I have seen where Trump espouses certain Democratic views. I mean, here's something interesting. He was apparently Mar-a-Lago was the first. It was the first golf course to allow homosexuals. I could be wrong on that, but I think I've heard that, and so it's like, yeah, he's on certain social issues, like I don't believe that he's a bigot towards the LGBTQ. Um, there have been things he said about trans people that was rather unfortunate. Um, but yeah, in some ways he's Democrat. I think Ruth Bader Ginsburg was probably a little more accurate in saying that he's not consistent on any issue. And I think that's probably a little more to the point, in my opinion. But elaborate on that. I'm curious to hear what you mean by that. King of the Dots, we have a one-party system playing ping pong with the voters. Who is the one-party system in your opinion, King of the Dots? That's an interesting comment. Again, thank you for all your engagement, guys. Swim Sadie, perfect, thanks. Okay, so I hope I put that conspiracy theory thing to rest. I hope that answered everything. King of the Dots, Republicans govern most states and get to redistrict or gerrymander. Well, yeah, that's kind of what I was saying earlier. Hey, like if you, and I researched this along quite a while ago, so things might have changed, and I'm certainly not brushed up on it. But it seemed that all of the liberal dominant states, it's much more democratic there. There's not, the liberals can't just fractionate the electoral college so that now you've watered down the black vote, say, the way it happens patently in Texas and Florida, and although Florida is still somewhat more, it's only been lately that they've sort of drifted further to the right. And again, it's been a while since I researched this, but yeah, that was my impression, is that it's a little more democratic. You can't get away with as much in those democratic hotbeds like New York and California. So good point. Goatbone, Watchtower interprets the image dream in Daniel, the feat of clay and iron, as applying to the political division in the Anglo-American world power. Your thoughts? Oh, wow, this is so good. Such a good question. I'm actually a little bit fresh on this because I was reading 2084 by John Lennox. He's a Christian thinker, and the bulk of it, I would say, probably 2/3 of it, for sure, was about AI, and he had really incredible insights on that. Very academic, very, he didn't mention scripture very much in any of those the 2/3 of the book, but then he did start taking an eschatological view and applying scriptures. It's not just the Watchtower that interprets, and I'm not meaning this as a disagreement with you, by the way. You probably will agree with this. It's not just the Watchtower that has interpreted the dream images in the way they have. There's definitely variances, but some of the things that I noticed that was a similarity between John Lennox and the Jehovah's Witness view is that the heads in Revelation, in the the beasts that they were describing, and in Daniel, refer to rulers like big, massive superpowers, And that has been, at least from my biblical scholarship, what little is there, I think that that's fairly consistent. It's just more subtle things like, the person, what is it, the individual with the number 666 on it. I can't remember how Revelation words it. Uh, there was question as to whether that would be an individual or it would be a group, whether it would be one of the superpowers at the time. And John Lennox, at least as far as I remember, takes a different path than the Jehovah's Witnesses view of that person wearing the number 666. I don't think the witnesses saw that as a person, whereas he interprets that. John Lennox interprets it as an individual. So yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. Hey, eschatology. I kind of shut down because of my atheistic bias when it comes to prophecy, but I did find that interesting. Anyways, it's interesting in a speculative way. Republican government stays. Okay, yeah, we'd read that. Yeah, I want. Let me know, Goatbone, what you think of that answer. Mickey, can I use law of attraction to attract my dream girl? Absolutely, you can. There's a video I did. I had two videos. One was about twin flames, and I can't remember the other one. And actually, there was another one where I talk about attracting the right people in your life, bosses and such, not romantic relationships. And I'll try to link them up at some point here, probably in a few days, on those videos. You can definitely use it to attract the love of your life. One of the main points that I make in there is to not only feel the feelings of what it will be when you're in a romantic relationship, but to be the person that you want to find. And I think that's a great starting point whenever you're approaching romantic type topics. Can I use that? Okay, so we did that. Cost, yeah, so I think King of the Dots was clarifying something, said cost them 2 senators giving question mark. Democrats control of the Senate. Not really sure what that was to clarify. It seemed like it was part of another comment. Anyways, I'll try to understand that a little later. Awaken G, very true. He donated to Hillary Clinton and went to Chelsea's wedding. Yeah, I mean, they were friends, right, for a long time. Got pretty tenuous after 2016, which was fun. Hey, did you ever watch that benefit that he did with Hillary, and they were burning each other? They were doing a roast. It was pretty funny, actually. Hillary was actually kind of a good sport about it. He was definitely harsher about her, but she had to laugh at some of the things that some of the roasts that he had. I remember one in particular. Trump was relating an experience where he bumped into the hallway, and Hillary said, "Pardon me," and Trump said, "We'll see about that." I thought that was a great roast. Where are we? Cost them to. Okay, so we did that. King of the Dots, most of Trump's contested states had Republican legislatures who changed election laws against him. Yeah, okay, so I've heard some of that. Now, here's the thing, and King of the Dots, you could expand my view on this. There were a lot of Republican judges that weighed into that, and they felt that in these various districts that there was nothing there to suggest that there was necessary, like a putsch or any kind of democratic fraud going on. In fact, in all of their suits, not one mention of fraud was made in the affidavits. I don't know if you're aware of that. Because the courts they have this rule that you can't frivolously accuse individuals of fraud without really good evidence, and you can even eventually be disbarred if you abuse that. And so Trump's lawyers didn't mention it, as far as I know, didn't mention fraud once, didn't accuse fraud once in any of the affidavits. And yet, what was the story to the press? Fraud was the main word, wasn't it? So that's troublesome. Was there perhaps some laws that changed in the heat of COVID-19 and the fact that we're in a bit of an extenuating circumstance where they had to um, change kind of the way elections are held due to a pandemic being in the world? You know, it can seem very convenient for Democrats. I would grant that to you, but was it undemocratic? I don't know. I mean, expand my view on this. I'm not closed minded to that opportunity or that potential. Um, it's a good question too, by the way. Where am I? See, the thing keeps moving, so I can't remember where I was. Swim Sadie, would you agree GB is anti-intellectual? Would you agree GB is anti-intellectual? Yeah. Yeah, on most things. I mean, there's the obvious one about their um, uh, kiboshing people's opportunities to pursue higher education. Um, they're intellectual on some things. I mean, they can speak fairly coherently about evolution, um, but overall, yeah, what's the height of what you can achieve in the society? It's to become an elder, maybe have a mustache on your face. I mean, no, that's a joke, but become an elder, wash windows, or become a janitor, or do something that is not a skilled profession unless it's a 2-year trade at community college. Um, that's that's where you net out. And hell, if you can go to Bethel, even better. So yeah, I think that there's an undercurrent of anti-intellectualism. I explained in what context that was the case in one of my videos. Jehovah's Witnesses in Education shows a woman in graduation garb. You could watch that if you kind of gets into that a little more. I would say the most anti-intellectual thing that they do is they tell you fundamentally to question your thinking, question the act of thinking, because anything that departs from what the society says, like the moment your loyalties go away from what the governing body says, you're not thinking clearly. Satan is having some influence over your thinking. Well, like, then how am I to identify truth in any situation? That's the question. And I think I did a video called "The Jehovah's Witnesses Debunked," and it wasn't to be disrespectful to Jehovah's Witnesses. I mean, you can't really debunk people. Like, I don't believe in that, but that was just to get clicks. And the main point that I made in there was that if you really think the governing body is above criticism, and any kind of doubt that you have that actually brings up issues of loyalty, if you think that that is fundamentally the devil influencing your mind, you've given up permission to think. What else can you do? So, and that was the thing that I made clearly in that video. Mickeyus, the law of attraction doesn't stop existing because you don't believe in it. It's impossible to not use it because it's a law of the universe, just like gravity. Yeah, very well said. That's so true. I really like that. That's going in the quote tote, my friend. Thank you for leaving that. What do you think of that? Oh, well, yeah, sorry, I should have just moved on. I think that that's brilliant. Yeah. See, the law of attraction doesn't, what you said there, that it doesn't stop existing because you don't believe in it. I mean, the very fact that you might be skeptical towards it is a demonstration of the article in question, isn't it? All the law of attraction states, actually, let's back up. You could take the view that what I'm preaching is not really the law of attraction. That's a perfectly respectable view. And I would agree in some part of that. I think I've gotten right down to the heart of what the law of attraction is, the consistency across all those who've been preaching it. And I think the law of attraction is about bias. I think it's about um, what you choose to see in life. And so that by definition is going to bring to bear it. Sorry, I'm getting tired, guys. It's going to be present in any kind of discussion on truth, isn't it? Are you comfortable commenting on our mutual? Oh, yes. Okay, Goat Bone. You know what? I actually had, I think it was Nightmare Theater, JW Nightmare Theater. Do you know him? He commented on one of my posts promoting this live, and he said, all I want to talk about is Daryl Wildberg. So I have to address that now. Are you comfortable? This is Goat Bone again. Are you comfortable commenting on our mutual friend Daryl Wildberg and his progenesis in the JW religion? Progenesis. I'm sorry. Prognosis in the JW religion. See, I told you I was getting tired. I think he's on shaky ground. Well, yeah, I mean, which prognosis in particular on the JW religion? Just his overall loyalty to them, or the fact that he can come on YouTube and have a public platform the way he does? I suppose I'll answer both of those. First of all, I like Daryl Wildberg. I don't know what I like about him, because he is a decidedly angry individual, and he's quite vicious. But there's something I like about the guy, and I don't know what the hell it is. And I'm actually happy that he's not been removed from YouTube. I'm glad that YouTube censors him when he makes very hateful comments against the LGBTQ, historically marginalized people. That's good when they do that. But I don't want him to go. I want him to stay, and I actually want him to influence other Jehovah's Witnesses to have a public platform, because I think that would contribute to a lot of reformation that's needed within the organization. The two questions that I wanted to address there, though, Goat Bone, about his prognosis on the governing body being divined. Obviously, I mean, I don't accept that. Do I think that there are good reasons to think the governing body is backed by God? I think it can be a respectable view, in the sense that there are values, more so than their predictions. Their values are not completely mistaken. I think that the Christian story is a beautiful one, that of Jesus' life, and there's a lot of great stuff in the Bible that is worth implementing. I certainly don't agree with the atheists who think that it's hate speech or something like that. Well, we got 16 concurrent viewers. Thank you so much, guys, for coming on. This is so much fun. And as to the other question about his prognosis to the governing body, I guess, what was my other question? Oh, just about having a public platform. I think it's great. I mean, why is it that Catherine Jackson can go on Oprah and talk about her faith, but and Serena Williams, meanwhile she goes twerking with Beyonce in music videos? Why is that okay, but Daryl Wildberg can't have a platform? Something of an inconsistency there. Awaken G, Daryl. Haven't seen any of his videos lately. He loved attacking you and some others. Yeah, we had some fun, didn't we? I love Daryl, man. He's so much fun. I tried to bait him a little bit earlier. Me and my good friend Sean from Yahweh Out There. We were trying to get him going with maybe, he had done a shower scene for him, just from here up sort of thing. And we were discussing maybe I should do a bath scene, bubble bath with champagne. I think he wants to see that sort of thing, the way, he's been coming on to us. A little sugar in his tank, as he says. Anyway, what was your question again? Haven't seen any of his. Oh, I wanted to mention something, Awaken G. This is really good. Lately, I've been told to kind of tone down my rhetoric against him, or teasing him, because he is going through some judicial matters. I understand. I'm not really fully caught up on it. I'm sorry. I can't relate anything. But he released a few videos talking about being involved with this judicial case, Plain Jane, and I don't know. He's in there somehow. So he's speaking out very strongly against some of the slander that's gone on from the elders. I imagine he's referring to what happened between the elder and his former congregation, and what he said about Darrow to what's her name? Veronica is her real name, but Smurf Girl, JW Smurf Girl. So he's saying that this elder is slandering him and everyone's against him, and so I don't know what'll come out of that. I can't imagine that if he was disfellowshipped again on these grounds, which he feels fairly confident on, that he's going to just stick around. I think he will eventually get mad at them and lose his loyalty towards them. But you never know. I mean, some people, like, there's a lot of people out there who've been disfellowshipped for 20 years and they will not allow themselves to consider the other side of the argument. So who knows? Hopefully, I mean, I kind of like him for what he is, that he's on the platform and expressing views. I hope that it inspires other witnesses to get a platform and engage, because I think if they do that, it will not only expose a lot of the corruptions that go on, but it'll just bring them into the public domain a little bit. You know what I mean? I think a lot of stuff can be a lot of these problems. Sorry guys, I'm getting tired. A lot of these problems can be minimized. The religion doesn't have to die off or anything like that. I wouldn't even really want that, to be honest. I just want the corruptions to end. Haven't seen it. Okay, so they're big time gaslighters. Yeah, I agree with you there. Awakened G. Mickeyus, what do you think of the interview of Meghan Markle and Harry? Oh man. I'm going to share something. Hang on. I did some Facebook activism. Look out. Look out. I got actually a little bit passionate about this. I want to read this because I can express myself better when I've thought about things at length. You know what I mean? Hang on. I'm finding it. Don't go anywhere. Okay, so this is what I shared a little picture of them in an interview with Oprah. And I said, trigger warning. I said, so typically I save my political rants for the radical Trumpers. Sorry about that, guys. But today's a little different. If you have spent even more than 1 hour following the media frenzy surrounding Meghan and Harry's so-called bombshell on Oprah this week, you should probably take about 2 minutes out of your life to read this opinion piece. Of course, Meghan's mental health is important, just like anyone's. Undoubtedly, if her nameless, vague, and nebulous accusations of racism and bullying hold water, she should have access to the help, restitution even, she deserves. Who would suggest otherwise? But there's quite another angle to this. You do realize, don't you, that there are active genocides being carried out right now against the Tigray people of Ethiopia, against the Rohingya Muslims of Myanmar, against the Uyghur Muslims of Xinjiang, China, where approximately 3 million of them are in literal concentration camps and several million more subjected to state surveillance on a level that would make Huxley and Orwell blush. This is only to mention briefly what is going on in Yemen, constituting the world's greatest humanitarian crisis. Now contrast that with the billions of dollars worth of publicity Meghan's silly little saga is generating. Think of the millions more that will emanate from the headlines covering Piers Morgan's petulant walkout on live TV and subsequent Twitter tantrum over his precious free speech being encumbered for offering his views on the scandal. This stupidity is not just counterproductive to social justice against white privilege, which surely exists, it's the very picture of privilege. It's tantamount to extending thoughts and prayers for the billionaire who scratched his Bentley. It's like sobbing for Conan when he lost the Tonight Show. These grievances belong with the loyalty department of Starbucks for that whisper of nutmeg which landed on your latte foam. And this is the kind of mindless, vapid Upper East Side BS we'll be squabbling about when Iran or the DPRK deliver a nuclear payload to our shores. Oh, and by the way, not a damn thing has been done about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict since basically President Clinton. This is what privilege looks like, you bloody hypocrites. Gah, no wonder the world hates us. That's, I might have gotten a little carried away there, but it's just the most vacuous thing we could be concerned about right now. And it's not even that as I mentioned, I prefaced this. I appreciate what Megan, if she's been through anything legitimate, absolutely she should be compensated for it. She should get treatment. Mental health is a big issue. I'm a big proponent of Bell Let's Talk and all that sort of thing. I support therapy and all the rest of it and access to therapy. And of course, I don't want her children to go through any prejudice. I'm actually more concerned about the media than the royal family in that thing. By the way, maybe it's worth clarifying. I can't speak for the royal family, obviously, but think about that comment where they were concerned, allegedly concerned that the baby would end up brown, Archie. Okay, now, on the face of it, the way she stated that, first of all, she didn't say who said it, which is a big problem. But let's just take that comment. That does sound very racist at first blush. But think of it like this. What if this was mentioned as a concern for the kind of rancorous racism that exists in the press, and how that would extend to, now the baby is going to be hyper concerned about its race, as it grows up. I can see that comment, even though, like, I'm not saying that it wasn't racist. Maybe it was meant in a racist way, and we should have a name of who said it, first of all, and maybe that person should release a comment about it. But in itself, maybe it came from a very good place. Maybe it came from the very opposite of racism, which is being concerned that the kind of media attention this baby would get. It's possible, right? So this is what troubles me about, like, is this really the biggest problem we have right now? Good God. I kind of went off there. Sorry, guys. What do you okay, so I answered that. Let me know if I can clarify anything on that. I don't want to, like, I don't want to get demonetized or anything like that. I'm all for social justice and social progress. There is white privilege, and it needs to be addressed on a societal level. It will break his heart if they disfellowship him after defending them so much. Yeah, now how true is that? She's talking, I don't know if this is a he or she. Awakened G is talking about Darrow there. Yeah, I think it would break his heart. And, I genuinely do think he's well-meaning in the area of wanting to make the world a better place and thinking that this is a solution to the world's problems. I have no questions as to his sincerity on that. AC, if you had to take a shower with Daryl, would you rather be the soapy or the soaper? Oh, wow. This is one of those would you rathers. I'm nonplussed. I have no response to that. That's just too good. If I have to choose one, I guess I would be the soaper. Awakened G. What I want to know is, what is Kate Middleton doing right now? What is she doing right? It obviously didn't work for Diana or Fergie. They gave birth to their kids, and the royal family took them. I'm not a royal family pundit. I got to be honest. So I don't know. Yeah, I mean they did. I'm not sure about where they did. The kids spend most of their time with the royals. I should know that. Anyway, yeah, that's an interesting point. Maybe elaborate on that if you don't mind. AC, yeah, good choice. Hey, did you want to join in? Is this is this a proposition? Yeah, I think I'd rather be the soper in that whatever. Anyway, I'm clearly getting tired and inappropriate. So, guys, thank you so much for showing up. I mean, there's still 10 concurrent viewers here. I was shocked at that. We got an hour and a half here that I was on. I'm going to split this up into different questions. You guys asked some amazing questions. And what's this? Robert Aluba. Can we talk about showering with Meghan Markle? Yeah, this is definitely. I gotta bow out, man, because this will only get me into trouble. Anyway, I love you guys, and thank you so much. And maybe let me know in the comments how often you want me to do this, and if I was engaging, and if I should I don't know, give me pointers because I want to know how to do this better and all that. So thanks, guys, and I'm gonna say goodbye now. Okay.